This video is going to be an overview slash deep dive into the 2024 Republican primary. I just looked at the Democrats, and for the Republicans, it's been 4 months. So with the Iowa caucus fast approaching, let's see where things are at. Now, a lot of you probably already know what's happening, so this is going to be especially helpful if you don't follow politics too closely. So we're going to do most of this on Wikipedia, and let's start on the candidate page. Well, we already know Donald Trump is the frontrunner, but there are still 5 other candidates in the race as of the time I'm making this video. We still have Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, and Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm most surprised Asa Hutchinson is still in it. I think he's waiting to drop out as soon as I finish this video. So Trump has long been the far and away frontrunner. These other candidates have made a dent at best in their progress at taking out Trump. Asa Hutchinson and Chris Christie, they have been the anti-Trump candidates in the race. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis have been in the middle. Sometimes they're against Trump, other times they support him or his policies. And Nikki Haley is the closest to Donald Trump. She even served in his administration as the UN ambassador. Then we have Vivek Ramaswamy. He's by far the youngest candidate. He's only 38 years old, and he's clearly the most pro-Trump candidate. He's also been kind of polarizing. He pretty much goes after anybody, but he has been painted as controversial. It would be interesting to see how he does without Donald Trump in the race, but with Trump in the race, he ended up not gaining as much traction as might have been thought after the first debate. Chris Christie was a little bit of Trump before Trump, but his popularity within the GOP has been very low. Ron DeSantis came into this thing being the guy who might actually be able to go up against Trump. His popularity ended up sinking as soon as he got into the race. Trump started to go after him, and DeSantis never reached his full potential. Nikki Haley has been rising as of late. She is an establishment candidate. I don't think she has much in common with the Trump base. She does seem to represent the Bush-era type of Republican that the base has largely moved away from. But since DeSantis went nowhere, a lot of the donors, a lot of the establishment seems to be coalescing in the Nikki Haley direction. And Asa Hutchinson, he's unexciting. He didn't make all the debates. He's polled very low. I think it's safe to say the end of the line is soon approaching for Asa. We go down here, we've got a lot of casualties in this GOP primary. Not a surprise. They gave it their best. It just did not pan out. And then, of course, you can keep going down, take a look at the minor candidates, and that will take us into ballot access. And this is a controversial section. It shows the ballot access for all the major candidates in the upcoming primaries. And outside of Asa Hutchinson, most of them have ballot access in all the states. However, there's some exceptions. The recent news in Colorado as well as in Maine has disqualified Trump from being on the primary ballot. Now that's a whole nother issue. In fact, Wikipedia has a dedicated page to track the entire process, and Minnesota and Michigan have already said Trump can appear on that ballot. Colorado and Maine have gone in a different direction. Other states have pending litigation. It's really a mess. The U.S. Supreme Court is going to have to step in pretty soon, and I would guess eventually that it'll be overturned and Trump will be on the ballot, but there's no guarantees in politics. This particular issue with Trump's eligibility is very polarizing. I have a recent poll out on my community tab, and it's not a surprise, but there are clearly people passionate on both sides. Some people say there is no chance Trump should be on the ballot. Other people say this is a terrible decision. He has to be on the ballot to let the people decide. So it's extremely heated. We will see what happens. Next, we can move on to debates. And there's already been several, all of them without the frontrunner Donald Trump. There's another one coming up on January 10th in Des Moines, Iowa. That's going to be right before the Iowa caucus. And so far we've got 3 candidates. Maybe we'll get 4 or 5. But Trump has not appeared in any of these debates. Personally, I think that's unfortunate. I could understand why he's not doing it because he probably only has something to lose. But in principle, it is beneficial to see all candidates in a debate. The Republicans are at least having a primary. The Democrats are not. I think it's a shame the 2 frontrunners, Biden and Trump, don't want to debate at all. It looks like they're going to get away with it. I don't think it would change anything anyway. It's possible Trump could sink a little bit, but that would also sharpen his debate skills, and it would let voters see him in action. He'll be able to make his case to the people, and he might even go up in the polls because people like his style, and they like how he's going to attack the other candidates. So, no Trump, but the other candidates have been on the stage. It looks like there's also going to be another debate right before the New Hampshire primary. It'll be interesting to see if Nikki Haley has gained any more ground by the time that primary rolls around. Now let's go on to endorsements. For this, I would recommend using 538. This tracks all the endorsements and it weighs them based on how significant they are. Trump has by far the most endorsements, totaling 524 points according to 538. DeSantis is second place all the way down at 51. Nikki Haley is only at 13. You can hover over any of these dots to see who the endorsement is from, and you can also scroll down to see the timeline of the most recent endorsements. And you could also get back on Wikipedia. They have different colored maps to show you who certain politicians have endorsed. They've got the U.S. House, the Senate, and governors. If you go down a little bit further, they have the Iowa State House and Senate, and there's also New Hampshire as well as South Carolina. And if you want to look at campaign finance for just a second, this has not been updated since the second quarter of 23, so it's not that current. I don't think it's that beneficial, but the information is there. Now that is going to take us into the polling. So let's see where we're at. Right now, in the aggregate, Donald Trump has over 60% of the vote, and he leads by about 50 points over second place Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is at close to 12% on average. Right behind, though, is Nikki Haley. She's at about 11. So there's a nice battle for second place. Ramaswamy is in third. He's at about 4. Chris Christie clocking in at about 3. Unfortunately for Asa Hutchinson, he's not even able to get 1%. Now, if you look at the individual polls, Trump is leading all of them. He's leading by a landslide. As I said, Nikki Haley has inched up over the past 1 or 2 months. Ron DeSantis has stagnated. Everybody else is not much of a factor at this point. Things can always change. For example, it's possible something happens with Trump in one of his trials. So if you're in a distant second place behind Trump, it's nothing to brag about, but it's not a bad position to be in just in case Trump is not the nominee. Now, if you want to help visualize these polls and take a look at a graph, we can get on Real Clear Politics. And Trump is pretty much at his highest point yet. There were concerns earlier in the primary after Trump started getting indicted if maybe that would be the thing that finally brings him down. It really only seemed to do the opposite. He gained more support. And outside of a brief dip after the midterms when DeSantis was at his peak, Trump has a monster lead and it looks like there's no stopping him. The only thing that's changed over the past couple of months, Nikki Haley has emerged as a competitor to Ron DeSantis for second place. Now let's go on to the first race. That's the Iowa caucus. That is on January 15th. So there's 40 delegates at stake. They're going to be allocated proportionally. It's going to be different than New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. So Iowa has a lot of evangelicals. Some years that could be a game changer. This year, if we scroll down past all the endorsements, we can get down to the polling and see that Donald Trump is very likely to win this state. Here, his average is over 50% of the vote. So that is a narrow majority. DeSantis is in second place with about 18. Nikki Haley is at about 16. So it looks like it's a done deal for Trump in Iowa. But what about the first in the nation primary? That is New Hampshire. Well, this is a weaker state for Trump. And if there's going to be a shred of drama in this primary, it's going to be here in the Granite State. There's a lot of independents here. They're not the biggest fan of Trump. And if we get down into the endorsements, there's one thing to point out here, and that is Governor Chris Sununu has endorsed Nikki Haley. I also could have mentioned in Iowa, their Governor Kim Reynolds has endorsed Ron DeSantis. So in the first two contests, Trump not gaining the support of the state governors. But let's see how narrow it is. If we go down to the polling, Trump is under 50%. He leads with a plurality of 44%. That's a 19-point margin over Nikki Haley, who's in second place at about 25. Here, Chris Christie is in third place with about 12. If we look at the individual polls, Trump is still leading every single poll. But as of late, there's some talk about Nikki Haley having surged. It's clear she's gone up, but she's yet to really actually make a move to overtake Trump. And for the most part, Trump has not really gone after Nikki Haley. I think that's changed recently, and I think that's all he has to do is target her just a little bit. So it's going to keep Trump on his toes in New Hampshire. He's still favored to win, but there's time left. We'll have to see what Nikki Haley can do. If she somehow manages to win it, then she's going to have momentum heading into her home state of South Carolina. Now, the last thing we could do is get on Predicted to see where people are putting their money. So the markets are showing Trump is clearly over 70 cents. Nikki Haley is in the mid-teens. DeSantis is in single digits and then down from there. This pretty much matches up with the polling. If you look at the 90-day trend, it's mostly been steady for Trump. It doesn't look like he's in any danger yet. I think people know from the past that Trump is tough to beat, and they're going to need to see a lot of evidence that he's in danger before people are going to bet against him. So what is the conclusion here? Well, it's very likely that Trump is going to be the nominee, but there are things that could get in the way. Trump could suffer a conviction at one of his trials. That could hurt him in the general election, but it's possible that even spills over into the Republican primary. I don't think that would be enough for him to lose, but it would give the other candidates plenty of ammunition. Now, the one thing I didn't go over here is Trump and his vice presidential pick. I have done a separate tier ranking video on that. The person I said he's most likely to pick is Tim Scott. I think he's going to look for some balance on the ticket. He's going to pick somebody a little bit more establishment. That could be Kristi Noem, and there has been talk about that being Nikki Haley. There's plenty of other names that are thrown out there. It could even be Ramaswamy, but that's going to be a big decision whenever that happens. We'll take a look at it at the time. But other than that, there are some issues that are dividing these GOP primary candidates. Ukraine spending is probably the biggest thing, but also there's Israel and spending related to that. Immigration and migrants, that's another significant topic. That's an issue, at least in the past, that's been a strength for Donald Trump. All of these other candidates that are not named Trump do have to constantly keep answering for all the baggage and all the drama that surrounds Trump. I wouldn't want to be in that position, and Trump seems to love the spotlight. He thrives on the crowd. He still has tons of energy, even though he's in his late 70s. He almost seems untouchable, even though there's a lot they could go after him on. None of it seems to land. Now, all these legal issues with Trump, it also can't help his cause. If it looks like the Justice Department has been politicized and Trump has been singled out as a unique threat that has to be stopped at all costs, some voters, especially in a GOP primary, might feel that they have to rally around Trump, and that's why it's very difficult to see him losing the nomination. Now, there's a million different things that could happen. Everybody could drop out and rally around Nikki Haley. Trump could suffer some sort of a medical issue. He could be convicted in multiple trials. The national issues could change. Maybe there's a lot of fatigue out there. Anything could happen. But right now, it seems like it's Trump up against the world, or at least the establishment. But I'm going to leave it there for now. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this Republican primary? Is there any chance it's not Trump? Is he actually in any danger in New Hampshire? If it's not Trump, who would be the backup? Who's he going to pick for his running mate? What do you think about Nikki Haley's rise in the polls? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.